Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Our main speaker is Bob Z.
Hi everybody, I'm Bob Zets. I'm an alcoholic. Glad to be here tonight. I've known about this for a while and I've been thinking about it. And I want to thank Frank for asking me to do this. I really appreciate it, and this group means an awful lot to me, and it's an important thing. I've been going through a lot of different feelings. I think it's kind of like watching your mother-in-law drive your new Cadillac off a cliff. But anyway, I'm really happy to be here, and my life is this group, and I came to this group about 11 and a half years ago with 5 years of sobriety, and my life has really changed since then. It really has. And I was also, I don't know why I feel good. I really don't, because this has been the worst year I've had in a long time. I mean, I've had some real things happen to me this year, and yet, yet it's okay. I've had some really serious health problems, and the worst thing about that is that I can't play baseball right now at the yard. That's really, the big deal about it. And I lost a job this year that was the job that I dreamed about my entire life, and I knew that I would never get. And I lost that job, but it was something that I had nothing to do with. It was okay. It worked. It came to be. It wasn't my fault. They didn't run me out of there. It was a result of things I had no control over, and that part's okay. I got enough money to last the rest of my life. I die tonight, so I'm okay in that area. And I learned all that here. I really did. I came to this group, as I said, about 11 and a half years ago, and I was probably like a lot of people that are 5 years sober, just kind of going to meetings and doing the things and all of that stuff. And by a quirk of coincidence, I ran into this guy who became my sponsor, and my life changed, and I got involved in this group, and I want to thank my sponsor, Keith Carpenter, and his sponsor, Clancy, and everybody in this group for my life. And I've learned here to do things that I knew I couldn't do, and to go through that, like this. And I've had a lot of good examples. I'm the type of person, I think, that I don't have any original ideas for me. Every original idea I ever had for me was a bad idea. And I never knew that when I came here. I mean, I thought I knew everything. But I don't have any real good original ideas for me, and I've been able to watch a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous, and especially in this group, and I've been able to just follow along with those people. As somebody read in the bulletin today, a very good friend of all of ours, Jimmy Grennan, died, and I was at his funeral today. And Jimmy was a very special guy, and he was a close friend of mine, and I was thinking about that today. It's funny that it happened today, and I think he personified the example of what the basis of Alcoholics Anonymous is, what our primary purpose is to stay sober and help another alcoholic achieve sobriety. And so I'll try to tell you a little bit about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. One thing about what it was like with me is that I don't really have any idea what it was like. I know what it wasn't like. I don't remember anything that went on. Everything I ever did in my life seemed like a good idea at the time. And I never thought about anything, I just did things. And I'm the type of alcoholic that my motto is hooray for me and screw you. And it's always been that way. And I never ever knew that. I never knew that I lived my life that way. And as a result of that, I had a lot of problems with relationships. I had a lot of problems with job. I had a lot of problems on every area of my life. And while I was having all those problems, I really thought that I had it all together. I thought I was really hip, slick, and cool. And when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, my interpretation of me was that I was a hip, slick, and cool, successful, debonair businessman. And you know, the funny thing about that is that if you'd have known me from a distance, you'd have probably thought the same thing. And that's one of the funny things about this disease, because I look good. I've always made it, I've always tried to look good. And God, when you're drinking and living the way I was living, boy, that's a lot of work. And it gets real tiring, and I had no idea that I was doing that. But I had a nice business. I lived in the right part of town. I dressed nice. I probably dressed better than I'm dressed right now. And it looked like everything was okay in my life. The fact of the matter was everything was going to hell. You know, my wife was trying to divorce me. I had all kinds of debts. I had hot checks everywhere. I had, just on and on, ad infinitum. And I don't know how I got that way. I don't know what my life came out to be that way. But I grew up in a little small town up in Northern California. It was small at the time, called Sacramento. It was a little town when I was born. It was a long time ago. And I was born to two parents who also were born and raised in Sacramento. So my family went back a long ways. Two normal alcoholic parents. And my life as a child was always kind of a roller coaster, because I started out for about the first 7 years, I guess things were okay. But I remember when I was about 7 years old, the Second World War started. And my father went off to the service, and my mother, they broke up, and my father and mother broke up, and my father went off to the Navy, and my mother went off and did what alcoholic women did during the war, which was chase soldiers, I guess. And, that's okay now. I don't care, that's not a big deal now. But I have one brother, and they put us in children's homes and foster homes. And the only thing I remember about that is they'd put us in one, and we'd go to bed at night, and we'd sneak out the window and run away and kind of go on a camping trip for a couple of weeks. That's all I remember. It just seemed like we were always riding freight trains and sneaking out of places and camping here and I'll tell you, I think back on those times, and it was fun. It was exciting. It really was. And that went on all during the Second World War, and at the end of the war, my father got out of the service, and him and my mother went back together, and my father went into business, and wouldn't you know, he became very successful. And so as a person in junior high school and high school, I had just the opposite of what I had when I was younger, and I had money, and my father was very well connected in Sacramento. He knew everybody. And so I had money, and in those days you could get a driver's license when you're 14, so I had a driver's license. I'm 14 years old. I got money, I got a driver's license, I got a beautiful hopped up 34 Ford channeled coupe, and all the things. I had a fake ID. My father knew every bar owner in Sacramento. I was drinking in bars when I was 15 years old, and they all knew how old I was, but it didn't make any difference. If I got stopped by the cops, they'd ask me, "You related to Matt Zets?" I'd say, "Yeah, he's my father," and they'd take me home. One time it was during the Korean War. I was thinking about this because Frank's in Korea. I was thinking it was Armed Forces Day or something, and my brother had joined the Navy Reserves to stay out of the war, and they had a big parade that day, and we all went to the parade, and then we got drunk afterwards and went to this party, and I'm driving down Broadway in Sacramento, and I hit a parked tank that they had left from this parade, I'm driving along, I hit this tank. And there's a cop right behind me. And I was going to keep going, but my tires were rubbing so bad. So I pull over, and let me see your license. And I showed him, and he asked, "Are you related to Matt?" "Yeah, he's my father." So he said, "Well, put a note on the tank, and I'll take you home." And I did, And that's the way I figured that you always did things, My brother got busted for drunk driving, and he didn't even go to court. He went to the judge's chambers, and they paid $75 or something. That was the end of it. And I thought that that's the way you did things. You know, that's just the way I was like. And I know I hear a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous say that they didn't feel like they belonged in their family, you know. My father was my role model. I wanted to drink like he drank because he used to go bar hopping. He'd go from bar to bar. Sometimes the cops would take him in a squad car from bar to bar. And he never had any money. And I'd go pick up his bar tabs after he'd been on a runner for a couple of days. And I thought, hey, man, this is what you're supposed to do. And as a result of that, I don't have any idea when I took my first drink. I just started drinking. I just started doing that, and it seemed like the way to go. And there was nothing unusual about it. There was no big deal about it. I mean, I just drank because that's what I did. And it seemed like a good idea. And I drank as often as I could, as long as I could. And I got married very young. I didn't want to go to school. I had an opportunity to go to college, but I figured, why should I go to college? I'll take over my father's business. I'll be rich and famous. That's what I always wanted to be. Who the hell needs to go to school? So when I turned 16 years old, the day I turned 16, I quit school. And I haven't been back since, except a little dab here and there. And I got married and started having kids. And one thing led to another. My first wife was I can call her an alcoholic now because she's an Alcoholics Anonymous, but it was very, very physical. I mean, we used to throw things and beat each other up. She'd bring my clothes in a bar and throw them in a bar and chop them up, and we'd try to run each other over. I mean, we did that for about 7 years. And we had 3 kids, and when I was about, after my first daughter was born and then my second son was on the way, an event happened that kind of changed my life, and I did my first "I'll never do this" statement. And what happened was that my father went bankrupt, and he did it as a direct result of alcoholism. I knew he did it as a direct result of his drinking. I didn't know it was alcoholism, but it was drinking. I remember my brother and I talking about it, because he'd ruined our plans. And I thought, what the hell are we going to do now? This idiot has lost his business because of his drinking. And I can remember us both talking about, you know, we'll never do that. I will never have this happen to me in my life. And my brother got to AA 12 years before I did. So, and I was kind of lost. What the hell am I going to do now? And like most alcoholics that are pretty creative, I guess, I couldn't get a job, so I went in business for myself. And I got successful. Started making all kinds of money. And then I started living a lifestyle of what money does for me, which is travel and do all the things that I like to do, chase girls and gamble and go here and fly on airplanes. And I did all that, you know, and I did that for years and years. And not too long after that, my first wife and I got divorced. And I was single for a little while, and I met this lady who was the total opposite. She was the type of person that if I said jump, she said ha hi. And if I rattled my ice, she'd bring me another drink. And if I ran out of booze, she went to the store and got it for me. And I thought, man, this is great. But for some reason or another, and I still can't figure this out, but I also have another disease, and it's called this ain't itism. My head said, this ain't it, you know. So about a year later, I divorced her, and I did the obvious thing. I went and married my first wife again. And it didn't take too long to figure this ain't it, and I divorced her, and I married the second one again. And seemed like a good idea at the time. One time during that period, the coming and going, they both tried to commit suicide at the same time. And they didn't succeed. I mean, they're both alive now, I think. But anyway, they were in the same psychiatric hospital in rooms next to each other, and they both were Mrs. Bob Zets. And I remember going to visit them, and I thought, Jesus, you know, this is kind of neat, you know. But that's the way my life was going, and I thought it was normal. I really did. I had no idea that it wasn't the way you're supposed to do it, and I never ever had any, I never ever felt any guilt or remorse or anything about that. I hear a lot of people talk about guilt and remorse, and I know for me, I'm just a self-centered SOB. I could care less. You know, hooray for me and screw you. And I remember the first time I ever felt guilty. I was in an AA meeting. I'd been sober about 3 months, and there was a discussion meeting, and the subject was guilt, and I had a little tinge of guilt because I'd never felt guilty. And that's the kind of package that came to Alcoholics Anonymous. And that I'll never do this statement that I made when my father went broke was something that I just did to spades. Man, I've been in so many businesses, I've been in so many deals, I mean, I couldn't even begin to count them. I used to think that for me to go into business, all I needed to do is find something to sell and print a card that says Bob Zets President and I'm in business, you know? And I did that over and over again. And I did that all over the United States and everywhere. I mean, I was just running around like an idiot, and I did that for a long, long time. And in 1971, I'd been back east, and I moved back to California, and I'd blown another big deal, and wasn't working too good in California, and I thought, I gotta go somewhere where they understand me. And I thought, Reno, that sounds like a good place. I'll go to Reno. Because that's, you know, I've been going in and out of Reno for years. And I, you know, up until actually about 6 months ago, I've been telling myself, I mean, that's a program, I've been telling myself I went to Reno because of all these wonderful ideas. The actual truth of it is, and I've just come clean to this, is that my mother-in-law at the time was living in Reno, and she had a big house, and I didn't have any place to live. That's why I went to Reno, actually. And I got a job as a cab driver. And I thought, Jesus, this ain't it. And I grew up with a guy in Sacramento that had a very successful restaurant, his family did. He was an Armenian guy. And I said to this guy, I said, Ronnie, why don't you and I build a restaurant in Reno? We'll build a really nice restaurant. And I thought being in the restaurant business was you go to work and greet the people and count the money at the end of the night, you know, and you make all kinds of money and you're hip, slick, and cool, and that would be it. And so I said, great, let's do it. You find that you build the building, you get the money, and you finance it, and I'll show you how to run a restaurant. And I'm driving a cab for about $80 a week. You know? And you know what? I put that together. I don't know how the hell I did it, but I built a gorgeous restaurant, and I wanted to be part of the community, like I tried to be so many other times. I was going to be, you know, just a stable businessman, be part of the community, and on and on and on. Well, some things began to happen to me that I know now, looking back on it, are as a result of my higher power, who I didn't know I had, was going to start putting some things in my life that were going to make me be here tonight. And the first thing that happened was I got busted for drunk driving in Sparks. And I told them what my father was, but they weren't interested. And they threw me in jail, you know. Well, it wasn't bad. I figured, well, you know, after all these years, it's time. That's what happens to you. But about 25 days later, I hadn't even been to court on the first one. I got busted for drunk driving again in Sparks. And I knew I was in trouble. And my keen alcoholic mind tells me when you're in trouble, what you do is you get a shyster lawyer that's got connections, and they get you out of trouble. Yeah. And I found this lawyer who had a lot of connections, and he coincidentally also owned a casino that had a nice cocktail lounge and live music and all that stuff on the ground floor. And I used to close the restaurant up and go over there with the idea, I gotta go see my attorney. And so I was hanging out there pretty regularly, and there was this cocktail waitress in there in hot pants that looked pretty good to me. And she wanted what I had, and I was willing to go to any lengths to get it, I guess. And one thing led to another, and 20 years later, she's sitting in the front row here tonight. And, you know, we started out our life unbelievable, you know. We started this thing of pre-Alcoholics Anonymous, I guess, and pre-Al-Anonism, and I got rid of my wife, and she came to work for me, and we're going to have this wonderful marriage. But she did something to me that nobody else had ever done to me before up till that point. One time, after about a year of us partying and doing all the things that you do in Reno, which is party, she said to me one night, you know something, you drink too much. You know, I can't do what you do, I can't keep up with you. And I thought that was pretty inconsiderate. I mean, you know, nobody had ever said anything to me about my drinking. I'd never ever even considered the fact that I drank too much or that drinking was a problem in my life. And I had to I started doing some things that I'd never done before. I started hiding drinks, I started ditching her, I started running around. She was chasing me all over Reno. And I mean, it was just a big, crazy scene that I'd never been involved in before. Because as I said, I'm the type of person that if I want to drink, I'm going to drink it. If you don't like it, that's your problem, leave. Wife, mother, partner, whoever, I don't care. Because I'm so self-centered, I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I mentioned that my brother preceded me in AA, and she went down, he was living in San Diego at the time, and she went down to San Diego and visited him and came back, and of course everything was AA and Al-Anon, and Christ, it was just terrible. And in October of 1974, I went out one Friday night, not unusual, different than any other Friday night, and I got home about 10 the next morning, which wasn't a big deal for me. And I got in the house, and she had a different look on her face. And she said, I'm not going to do this no more, and I knew she meant it. I knew she meant it, but I also knew that Betty Ann is the type of person I am. She's the type of person that comes up with all these great ideas and says, this is what we're going to do for the rest of our life, and 2 weeks later we all forgot about it. So she had this great idea that she was going to go to Al-Anon, and I better go to AA, or else she was going to divorce me, and the only thing I could think of is that this would really be an inconvenient time for another divorce. So I figured, what the hell, I can go to AA for a couple of weeks. It's no big deal. Because she's going to change her mind anyway, she always does. And I came to Alcoholics Anonymous in October of 1974, and I came with the package that I described to you. I came here, I thought that my drinking was still fun, I really did. I had never even considered cutting down, let alone stopping. And I didn't have any idea that drinking was causing me a problem in my life. I thought it was all of them, you know. My partner would shut up, my mother would get off my back, my wife would shut up, my ex-wife and kids would leave me alone, and on and on and on, that then everything would be okay. But I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I also had another problem when I drank in Reno, is that I used to frequent casinos and leave money there. Some people call it gambling, but I never won. So. And I had a check kiting thing going, where I was writing a check at this casino to cover the check at this casino to cover the check at that casino. And when I went to AA, that stopped and it all collapsed. And I had a lot of heat on me. But I came to Alcoholics Anonymous and I started hearing people say, you know, just keep coming back, it'll get better. And I was not impressed with Alcoholics Anonymous to begin with, but about the first 2 or 3 days into AA, I ran into a guy. I was standing against the wall at the Alana Club in Sparks, and a guy came up to me and said, are you going to make it? I said, what do you mean? He said, man, you look like you're going to fly apart. And I had no idea that I looked like that. I just thought it was, you know, I was who I am. And anyway, this guy kind of took me under his wing, and he started taking me to meetings, and he invited me over to his house, and he played some tapes for me. And this is the honest to God's truth. I'm not making this up. I never knew it at the time. The first AA tape I ever heard was Clancy. This guy really liked Clancy. And he had Clancy tapes, and Clancy was in his pendulum era then. And I heard Clancy, and this guy did what AA is about, you know, one alcoholic talking to another, and I got involved in AA, and I started going to meetings, and I started doing most of the things that we're asked to do here. And I started feeling a little bit better, but pretty soon, you know, all of this stuff was happening to me, and I was going to a lot of meetings, and I began to start feeling, you know, what the hell is going on? And I started wanting to drink. And I guess this probably happened in about 8 or 10 months of sobriety. And I wanted to drink. The pressure was on, and I just, you know, I couldn't figure out what the hell's going on. I'm going to meetings. I'm doing what everybody else is doing. I heard people say, all you got to do is come here and bring the body and the mind will follow, and you can get this program from osmosis. And I'm thinking, Jesus, I'm doing everything everybody else is doing. Why aren't I getting it? My life's a shambles, you know. My wife and I are almost killing each other on a regular basis, and things are going to hell, and, you know. I mean, it was unbelievable. She also got pregnant right after I got sober. That was a big shock, because one of the things I told Betty Ann when we met was that I was sterile. And she got pregnant, but I mean, you know, it was just, I wanted to drink and didn't want to drink all the time. And I don't know if anybody's ever been through that, and I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't have a sponsor. I wasn't working the steps. I was just going to meetings. And for this alcoholic, just going to meetings won't do it. I know that now. And after 15 months of sobriety, I went out one night and I drank. And I got as drunk as I could get, and it didn't work no more. Booze just was not working. And the next day, a guy that I sponsored came over, and Betty Ann made him take me out of the house and took me to a bar, and I said, buy me a drink. And he said, I don't think I'm supposed to do that. I said, I'm your sponsor, do what I tell you. Anyway, he bought me some drinks, and I tried to drink them, and I couldn't drink them. The drinks would not go down. And that was January the 21st, 1976, and it was cold and windy and snowy, and I walked home, shuffled home, and I came to the conclusion, I guess I had my moment of clarity, that I'm an alcoholic, and alcoholism, I guess, is my problem. If that's the case, then AA has to be my solution. I guess I'm going to have to do it all. I'm going to probably have to get a sponsor and maybe even work the steps and live miserably ever after. I really, really believe that, and it was okay. It really was okay. And I guess I had that spiritual experience that they talk about. The big book talks about that, you know, the lack of power is our dilemma. And I guess I didn't have the power because I wasn't willing to tap into that power. It also says in that book that the main purpose of the book is to show us how to develop a relationship with a power greater than ourselves that can do for us what we can't do for ourselves. And I'd never ever tried to work in that area before this time, and I got a sponsor, and I started doing the things, and things began to happen. And Betty Ann, then we had a year later we had twin girls, and life was tough. We had a tough time our first few years. Money was tough, and work was tough, and you know, it just wasn't not. Then we went to Texas for a while, and we were in Texas a couple of years, and then in 1981 we moved out to. Well, actually, I came out here at the end of 1980. And we moved out to California, and our life was still, you know, not a real great thing. I mean, things were not real good for us. I mean, it was tough. It really was. She had 3 kids. We had 3 kids. One of our twin daughters died of crib death when she was 3 months old, and that was something that we had to go through. And you know, it was not a real fun thing. But I was sober, and I was trying to stay sober, and I was trying to do what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. And we came out here, and I went to the San Fernando Convention in February of 1981, and I met my sponsor. There was a guy there from Texas who introduced me to Keith. And I had felt lost when I came here because, you know, there's so many meetings in LA. I just couldn't get connected. You know. And I didn't know Keith was in the Pacific Group, and I didn't know what the Pacific Group was. But he asked me to do some things, and he said, you know, if you will do these things, I guarantee that your life will get better. And I was willing to do those things. And I became willing to do all the things we do around here. And you know, at the beginning, and when I came here with 5 years of sobriety, I was not a newcomer, but I was a newcomer. And I really had a hard time fitting in here. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but I had a hell of a hard time fitting in here, I thought, because I'm the kind of a person that I don't reach out anyway. I don't talk to people. I have a real difficult time. I mean, after I say, hi, how you doing, I don't know where to go from there. And Keith is just the opposite. And I just got drugged along with him, you know. And my life has really changed as a result of being involved with this group, you know. As I said, I've had so many things that I've had to do here that I just knew that there's no way I could do them. And I've been asked to do things, and I got not only asked, but I got told to get a job. I don't do jobs, you know. And I got a job, you know, and as a result of learning how to be consistent here, I did good in that job, you know. And then as a result of being consistent, that went away. But that's okay, you know. Something I know from my experience and being around here as long as I have, that no matter what's going on, it's going to change. And if I do the right thing, it'll change for the better. I really believe that because I've experienced it too much. I've experienced it a lot. As I said, I don't know why I drank. You know, I really don't. I don't know why I lived the lifestyle I did. It just seemed like a good idea at the time. But I want to close. You know, there's a couple of lines in the big book that, as far as I'm concerned, really describe what drinking was for me and what Alcoholics Anonymous is for me. And it's the first three or four lines at the beginning of the 11th chapter, A Vision for You. And what it says that for most normal folks, drinking means conviviality, companionship, and colorful imagination. It means release from care, boredom, and worry. It is joyous intimacy with friends and a feeling that life is good. You know, I know that that's why I drank. I know that I tried to hit that 7 or 8 drinks where I had all of those feelings, because without booze in me, man, I was nothing. I was a dud. And I drank that way for all those years. I didn't know that. And I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, and you know something? That's exactly what the program's given me. It's given me, you know, that congeniality, companionship, and freedom from boredom. I cannot remember the last time I was bored. I really can't. The other thing I can't remember is I can't remember the last time I was lonely. And it's joyous intimacy with friends. I have a hell of a lot of friends now that I never had before I came here, and especially since I came to this group. And it's the feeling down in here where you live that life is good. I really have that feeling. So Alcoholics Anonymous has given me exactly what I was trying to get from booze, and I never even knew that all that time. I hope if you're new here that you can latch onto this, and that you can find what I found here, because you know the only way I got it, or the only way I found it, was just following along with the people that were ahead of me. And if there wasn't somebody ahead of me for me to follow, I would have never did it, because I'm not the type of person that will do that. But here, especially in this group, I get to watch it happen. I don't have to listen to people talk about it. I don't have to hear all these great theories and all that. I get to watch it happen, and I get to go along with it. And if you're new, just latch on and go along with it, and you can watch it happen to your life. And someday, you'll be like me, regardless of what's going on. Deep inside, you'll know life is good. Thank you very much for my life.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.